What's up guys? So in this video we're going to be adding functionality to the multi-step form, and if you are watching this video, there's actually a part 1 where we built this multi-step form with React and CSS. I will leave a link to the video in the description, or it should be showing on the card right now. Alright, with that being said, the first thing we are going to do is to display the very first step. So there are different ways to go about this, but we'll first of all start from this progress step section. I feel it would make more sense if we start focusing on this side that still works together with this next button and go back button right here. So we want to be able to keep track of the page that we are currently on. Right now, all the pages are active, so we can't necessarily go to the next one, or we can't even go back. Everything is just static. So to do that, we'll first of all go to our form component, because this has the entire component that we are storing all the different data. So I'll come right here and create a state. I'll call that state page, and I'll create the function to update that page and say use state and set the initial value to 0. So what we are saying is that we want to start from page 0, and page 0 is the first step right here, and we'll be using the index of each of all these components. So you remember that, let me see if I have one right there. Like for this one, there's an index, so we'll be working a lot with the index, and if you already know, index always starts at 0, so that's why I'm setting the page to 0. And remember, we're still working on the progress bar, but what I want to do is that I want to make this entire component dynamic. Right now I'm always commenting one out and bringing in the other one. So what I will do is I'll come right here and create a function. I'll call it page display, and this will be an arrow function. So what this is basically saying is that if we are on the first page, on which is the personal info, we want to just return the personal info. Else, you guessed it, if we are on the second page, which is page 1, we want to return what? We want to return the select plan. Else, if we are on the page 2, we want to return add-ons. Guess it's add-ons, right? Can't spell well. Yeah, it's add-ons. Then else, if we're on page 3, we want to return the finishing up component. Then else, we can just return the thank you page. So basically the final step. So say thank you. Alright, so I will uncomment everything here, and we no longer need this anymore, and I will save. Then I will just need to pass in the page display function right here. So this is dynamic, and it's only work based on the page that we're currently in. So let's go back and see what we have. Okay, we have to select plan. Don't know why we have to. Let's save this one. Do we have any more errors? Nope. Okay, That's cool. So now we want to pass this page and this set page down to the progress bar, because like I said, we are currently on the first page, which is the personal info. So this step one should only have the background color. So to do that, we will just come right here and pass in the page, CSS page, and pass this as props as well, so set page. Then we'll go to the progress bar. So I will try my best to show you some very important shortcuts as we are learning together. So to go to the progress bar, instead of me to just come and click right here, I can just hold Control and left click if I'm using a mouse, or just click on the progress bar. It will direct you to the progress bar component. So we want to receive those props we pass, set page. I'm going to create a function called handle step click, and this will take in an index. So basically, why we are adding this handle step click function is that we want to keep track of where we are clicking the current page, and if we're on the first page, we shouldn't be able to like go back to a negative number. So we want to just add like a validator's check sort of. So say if the index is less than 0, or the index is greater than or equals to the progress data dot length, then we want to just stop it. We don't want to do anything. Then in order for us to use it, and before we use it, we also need to set the update the page, this page state right here. So passing the index right now. So currently the index is 0 and the page is also 0. So we are going to just come here and pass in the index from here like so, and we'll just say on click, just call an arrow function and say handle step click, passing index right here like so. So we can save this, and we also need to update the active state. So we can get rid of this double quote and use backticks. Let's not get rid of the active, and we also need to open the curly bracket first and backticks. Then we use the dollar sign, and we can say if the page is equals to the index, then we want to bring in the active state, else we don't want to do anything. So right now, if we check, you can see that this is the one that is highlighted, and if I click on this, you can see it's moving, because now we are currently on the first page. So page is 0, index is 0, and we already have a function right here that is basically taking us to the next page with this index. So index is currently 0. If I click on it, index will be updated to 1, and that index is still updating the page state to 1 as well. I hope that makes sense. So now we can do all this right here. So these headers are still working fine, but what I want to do is can go to the header, and instead of uh, going to each component and just doing this, I would go to the header and I will loop through all the different titles we have, so that we don't have to manually write it for each of the step. You can leave it like so if you want to, it's still going to work fine, but I just want to show you a better alternative. So under this, we can just come right here and say header data.map, and say this should be the data. Then you can just pass a div right here, cut this to put it right here. They should have a key. Let me first of all save this. Okay, they should have the index and they should have a key, not a class name, key of index, and this will be data dot title and data dot subtitle. And the same thing, we also want to receive the page that we're currently in. We'll pass it shortly. Then we'll say if the page is equals to the index, then we can use the logical operator and just render the title and the subtitle. So if we're currently on the first page, render the title for that page. I'll be intertwining page or components, so bear with me. So I was basically saying that if we are currently on the first component, which is the select one, then we render it out. If we are on the second one, the same thing. So right now it's not showing because we need to go to the select plan, and or rather we need to go to the form and make sure we are passing the page as props right here. And we also need to still pass in the set page because we'll be using the set page on the personal info itself. So we'll go back to the personal info and we'll receive the page and set page. But for this title, we just, let me get rid of this. We just want to pass the page right here like so. So if we check now, you can see this will only be the one showing it because we've not updated this other state as well. But once we pass in this page, it's going to get updated. So for the footer, which is this is not still working. So we'll just come right here and pass the page like so and set page like so, and we'll go to the footer component and receive it from here. Say set page, and what we want to do is basically create some function so that we can be able to click to the next page, and if we get to the last page, we want to stop the button from going to a page that is not really created. So we can do that by creating a next page function. And what we want to basically do is to update the page state and say current page, and we just want to add one to it. So say current page plus one. So I can just come right here to the next step and say on click, I'm just calling the next page like so. So let's see if it's work. So it's working and it's not going to the next one. And why is that? So let's check our console.log. We're not having, okay, we're having some errors. Set page is not a function at next page. Set page is not a function at next page. So what does that mean? Okay, then if we go to the form, all right, so we're passing it correctly. So here's what I'm thinking. Instead of just using this on click here, because when we also get to the last page, we also want to like show the thank you component. So what I will just do, and I guess this will work, so let's try it like so. Say if we get to the last page, so we can do that by saying if the page is equals to the progress data, which is basically this. When we get to the length, and we'll take one from it, and now create another function. Let's just call this handle button click, and right here we'll say if we get to the last page, let's just console.log say last page, else let's just move on to the next page. And instead of doing this, we can just call the handle button click. I think we're still running into the issue, or is it because we've not added this right here? So let's just do that. I'm very sure that's what's causing it. So what I will do is I will quickly go to the form and pass in all this as well. So do it here, and we'll do it here. I guess we'll do it here. So go to the first one. Say here should be page, set page. All right, so the next one will be add-ons. Say page and set page. Then I guess this will be the last one. So we say page. So let's see. This doesn't have anything. Okay. So let's see this time. Let me refresh and see next step again. We are still running into that the same issue. So guys, I'm still debugging this. So I'm guessing, let's go through it again. So the issue is only happening when, let me see this again. So we can go to the next, we can go to the next one. So I think what is happening is that if we go to the add-ons, okay, all right, we also need to just pass the page right here. So I'm very, very sorry if you're trying to yell out the correct stuff to do. I mean, this is programming, so all this is bound to happen. So the same thing here, I didn't even receive this as props as well. So we still need to do the same thing. So page, set page. So basically, when we're trying to go to the add-ons or to the next step, it was not even like keeping track of what we were doing. So now we can conveniently go to the third one. So let's see if that's everything. So select plan has it, right? Okay, select plan does it has it. So we can say page, should be page, set page. All right, so let's refresh, go to the next step. Okay, so everything is working fine. So when we get here, we are not going to go to the next page because we've already added this right here. So I think we can't go back, like so we can't go back. So to do that, we just need to come right here, say on click, and instead of us just having a separate function to do that, I think we can just pass in the arrow function right here and set the page and do the current page and say current page and take one from it, like so. So now we can go back easily to the previous page, and this is working in a very, very weird way that I'm not comfortable with. So we are going to the thank you page. So to stop that, what we do is we say if the page is greater than 0, no less than, greater than 0, then we can show this button. Because initially, if I go to the design, you see that the go back button is not showing right here. So it only shows when we actually go to the next step. In this case, we are showing it if our page is greater than 0. So the next thing that we want to do is to keep track of all these fields and make sure these errors displays or shows only where we hit the next step and will not fade out all these details. So for the sake of time, because I don't want to waste you guys time, there are different ways to approach this, but the way I found that really made it easy for me is to use the React Contest API. Before we start talking about what that is or start using it, if we go to the personal info, we want to store all these in a state so that we can keep track whenever we make changes to each of these input field, which means that we need to like create like a page data. So we can say page data and set page data, set page data, and this will be what, a use state, and this is going to take an object which basically will be like a personal info, and this will also have a key value pairs of like the name, which will be an empty string, email, same thing. Let me add the comma here, and the phone, which will also be an empty string as well. So this is fine because we can now in this value, for instance, this value, can say value can be the page data dot personal info dot name, but I don't want to start doing it for this page, because when it comes to showing the error message, I don't want to start passing props from the form again every time, because we need to like handle the error state right here so that this component can have access to that error state. But in order for you to keep your work organized in a better way, we're going to be using a contest API, the React Contest API. And basically what it does, or what it is that it allows us to have access to any of the states we want globally on our application. So we can just call it like so on every component that needs it, instead of us to just be doing prop drilling. So it's like a better way to avoid that. So we're going to do it inside of the source folder, but outside these folders right here. So I'll call it form context.jsx, and now what we're going to do is to create the context. So in our case, I'll be calling the context the form context. This can be anything. Then we can just invoke the create context function right here, which is basically undefined by default. So if you're using TypeScript, it's will prompt you to add an undefined value. But in our case, we don't want it to be undefined because we want to pass some things to it. What do we want to pass? We want to pass like the page data, which involves the personal info data, the select plan, and the add-ons. So the next thing we want to do is to create like a form provider. So I can just do like export const form provider, and this is like the function, because we actually have to append this right here to the provider, and I'm going to just pass an arrow function. And what we'll do right here is to pass in the children. So what this children does is that when we wrap our form, we're going to wrap this form with the form context. We can now, instead of wrapping just a single component, we can wrap different components around it so that they can have access to the form provider. So I can just come back to the personal info and let me cut this out. I don't need this anymore. So I'll just paste this for now and import use state from React, and inside there we'll just return the form context and append the provider to it. And now we can have access to some values, and also we just need to still pass the children right here. So this we have us to have access to some values, and the values that we will pass right here will be what we are going to be using when we want to use the use context. So for now we don't have anything, so I can just say what should I use? I can just say item. I'm going to change this later on, or just say hey or something. Then we've already set up the form provider, but in order for us to actually use the form context around our application, we can just come here and export an helper function and export a helper function. Let's just call this function export const use form context, and this will basically return the use context. So use context from React, and we'll just pass in our form context that we have or that we've created. So cool. Now we can go to our form, not our form, our application rather, and wrap our application with what? The form provider right here. So if we save this now, we can now pass in different states to each component right here. So we'll do that shortly. So let's just go back to our form context, and for the sake of time I'll just write out all the functionalities I'll be needing, so I don't want to go back and forth every time. So we're setting the personal info and setting the key value pairs to be empty. Then the same thing for the select plan. So we say select plan, and we'll set the option to be an empty string, and the selected plan as well. This would be selected plan to be an empty string. All right, so the option will be where is it? So the option can be month or year, and the selected plan is just the entire stuff. And lastly, we just need to add the add-ons as well, and we're not importing it. Make sure you don't import it. So we can say the checked items, because that's what we need. So say checked items, and we'll set it to an empty array because we want to be able to check more than one. And while we're there, let's also add the error messages. So we can say error message for the personal info, and set error message personal info, and this will be use state. This will be an empty string. So copy this 2 more times because we only need it for 2 more places. This one will be select plan, Same thing here. Select plan. And this will be add on. You just make this capitalized to keep it uniform. So add on. All right, cool. So we are still working. I don't know why we are not seeing anything right now. Guess there's an error somewhere. So let's check. Page is not defined. Page data is not defined in personal info. So let's see personal info. Okay, we didn't save the company. Was that why? Okay, so let's get rid of this. This is why I was showing the error. Okay, cool. So we just want to add validation checks for each of these fields. So we can do that by saying const validate personal info, and we'll say we just first of all destructure the values from the page data.personal info. So work with the name, the email, and the phone, and we'll say if there's no name or there's no email or there's no phone, it should be email, then we want to do something. So we want to set the error for the personal info to be that error. We'll say this field is required, and we'll just stop the field from going through. Else we can just set the error info to empty, and we'll return true right here, so that the so that we can actually go to the next step. All right, cool. So we start from here, and now what we want to do is to pass some of this value so that we can be able to have access to it. So that's what we'll be doing inside this value property or value prop. So we need to pass the page data, the set page data. Also need to pass in the error message for the personal info and the validate for the personal info as well. So now we can come back to the personal info, and for us to have access to those data, we can just say const and use curly bracket, not square bracket, curly bracket, and say use form context, and make sure we're calling this. Now we can have access to the page data, set page data. So assuming we're using TypeScript, you would have been having some autocomplete right here. Then we'll have access to the, I guess this is a very long name. Let me just copy this and let me paste it right here. So let me just get rid of this. Say error message personal info, do the same here. Let me just copy it here and replace it here as well. Also need to do it here as well. All right, cool. So the error is not showing now, which is fine. So what we want to do now is to create a function to keep track of all the fields and handle the changes. So I'll call this handle personal info change. And again, I don't know, I'm typing like so today. And this will take in two parameters. So we're going to take in the field and also going to be passing in an event. So the field is basically the field that's here. So name, email, and phone. Then the event is basically just the event type. So it's going to be the event or target the value. So what we'll do here is to set the page data, and we'll say the previous data, and we'll spread over the previous data so that we'll have a shallow copy of it instead of replacing it. And since we are working with the personal info property or object, we can just pass in the personal info here, and we'll still spread over the page data and grab the personal info, and we'll set the field and just pass in the event type. So event dot what, target dot value. So in order for us to use this, we can just come down to this place like so and say the value of this can be page dot data dot personal info dot name, and on change will just be the event, and this will be what, handle personal info. And like I said, this is taking 2 arguments. So the first will be the name and the other one will just be the event, like so. So event will get passed right here. So event dot target the value, and this field right now will be the name. So I will just copy this and do the same right here. So this will be for email, and this will be for email, and lastly this will be for phone, and this will be for the phone, like so. All right, so we can now go, this is still working, and now we can let me use this fake filler. So we can easily update each of the fields, and it will get updated right here and stored in the page data. Okay, so we want to now throw the error state if there's actually no value. So we don't want to be able to go to the next step. So we'll handle this later on, but we'll just focus on this for now so I don't want to go back and forth. So I'll go back to the footer right here, and I will the structure the same thing and say use from context and pass in the validate personal info. And right here, so we'll just add a check and say if the validate personal info, then just go to the next step. So if we click on it now, I think I should have a negative, we should negate this rather instead of just passing it direct. So I guess if I try it now, it's not going to work. All right, which is cool. So if we have a value, now we can go to the next step, and it's still not working because of what? Is there an error? So there's no error. So let's see why is that. Okay, wait, let's see. Oh, okay, this is a function, so we should actually invoke it, and I don't think we need this. We need to negate this anymore. Yeah, so let's try it again. Yeah, so we have this error message right now. So once we have this field, we can go back to the next step. So I guess we are done with the first step. So for the next step, we can just go to select plan and go to the form context, and we'll do similar thing we did right here. So we say validate select plan. This will be an arrow function, and we can just destructure the same thing. So we can say page data dot select plan, and we'll grab the selected plan. And what we want to do is to say if there's no selected plan, or the object dot keys, and we'll wrap this with the selected plan, the length is equals to 0. Then we want to set the error select plan to select a plan, and we'll return this as false. And here we just set the select plan to an empty string, and we'll return this as true. And since we are doing this like so, I think there's no need to add this else here, so we can just do something similar so that everything should look kind of the same. All right, cool. So we can now pass in the error select plan and the validate select plan, like so right here. So there should be a comma. Okay. And in case if you're wondering why we added this other part to check, we're basically saying, let's see if we can go to the next step. Okay. So if we've not selected anything, we can click on it, which means that we've selected something. And again, if we not select anything and we toggle on this, it is going to assume that something has been selected because the object is true by default, because there's an empty is an empty string or an empty object. I don't know if that makes sense, but the default state that is true. That's why we are not just working with the select plan. So before we go to the select plan, let's go back to the footer and add the check right here. So we say validate select plan, and instead of us adding the same if check here, what we'll do this time is that we'll create like a validation function. So we say validate functions, because more than one, and we'll put this inside an array. So we want to validate the personal info and as well as the select plan, so that when we have more components I want to validate, we just need to pass it right here. And what we'll just do here is to say, let me just do it before this and say validate functions is equals to validate functions, and now we'll pass in the page. So this is for page 1, which is 0. This is for page 2. That's why we're making reference to it right here alongside the page. So we can now check if there's even a validation function. This should be functional functions to start with. So if there's something to validate, then you can now validate that function before moving on to the next step. All right, so we can now go to the select plan, and for the select plan, we'll also be passing some props right here. So we have to go to the form self, and we'll create another state called option. So we'll say option and set option. So the default will be monthly. So we want to keep track of the options right here. So now we can pass in the option right here and say option and set option. We can go to the select plan and accept that and say option set option. And for the select plan, it's going to be a little different, because the first thing we want to do is to, hope we have this opened. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is to receive some data from the context. So say page data, then set page data and error message select plan, and this will be coming from the use form context. Okay, so we can now, where's the error message? We can change this to the error selected plan. So if we come right here, you can see that that message is gone, and now we can't go to the next step except we select something, and now nothing is still selected. So let's add the functionality for us to select a plan. So you can come here and create a state. So call it selected plan and set selected plan. And for this state, the default value now will be a function, and what we want to do is to return the page data. So we want to check if there's a page data, if we've selected something before, and actually show that thing that we've selected. So we say page data and page data dot select plan. So I think it's select plan, not selected. Select plan. Let me confirm this quickly from context. Okay, this should be select plan. I think it makes more sense like so. So this should be select plan, and hope we need to make the same thing here. Select plan, select plan. All right. Dot select plan. Oh, my bad. This is right because this is the actual function. So I guess it's a fugazi from my own end. So this is correct. This is what we want to actually access. So we can come here and say select plan. Then if there's actually a plan that is selected, we just want to show that in our state. Say select plan dot selected plan, else it should just be undefined. All right, cool. Then I want to create a function for us to be able to select different plans. So I'll call this handle selected option, and this will be selected plan, and inside this function we'll just pass the selected plan to the one that we will be selecting, which will pass via this. Then we can grab the set page data and we'll do what we did initially. So grab the previous data and we'll basically just spread over the previous data, and we'll grab the select plan. So we're working with this right now, and we want to just attach the plan that we selected to this, just update it. So we say this would be inside, not a square bracket. This should be inside the curly bracket and spread over the previous data dot select plan, and we'll pass in the selected plan. And while we are there, we want to also make sure that let's make sure we have something filled out. We also want to make sure that the option that we select to should be updated. So currently the option is set to monthly, but we can just pass in that option and update the option as well. Cool. So now we can now use that. Before coming, we're going to add a function to still update this when we switch, but let's see if we can select a plan, because currently now we can't select anyone. So to do that, you can just come to this part like so and get rid of this default check and change it to checked, and this will be selected plan dot name if is equals to, now if is equals to the plan dot name this time, so whatever the name is. Then on change you can just pass in the function that we've created. So we can say handle selected option and pass in the plan like so. And for the style, we'll still do the same thing. We'll say selected plan dot name if is equals to whatever the plan we selected. So plan dot name. All right, cool. So now you can see that no one is being active. When we select one, you can see it's being active. So before we start updating this year and month to work with this, what we'll do is to create this function to toggle between this. So we can come back right here, and to create the function, guess this is too much, we can just say const, and I'll call this handle toggle change, and this will still accept or receive the selected option that will be passing as an argument in a minute. And we'll set the option. Default option is month, so we want to set it to whatever option that was selected. Then we also want to grab this and update it as well, but this time we'll get rid of this selected plan, and the option will be the selected option so that it goes hand in hand and updates together. And to use the function, we just need to scroll down. Where should we use it? We'll need to come to the monthly and say on change, call the function and say handle toggle change, and we just set it to monthly, which is the default one. And I will copy this and set this to yearly, and the check state as well. So we change the check state to the option. So if it's monthly, we just change it to monthly and just do the same as well when it's checked. So change this to yearly. All right, cool. So it's not working, but for us to see it in full effect, first of all, let's add that fade feature the fade effects we use in CSS. So we can say class name, and this should be curly brackets, and we'll say if the option is equals to monthly, then we want to bring in the fade class, else we don't want to do anything. So this should be a question mark right here. Then we'll copy the same thing and go to the label and say if this is yearly. All right, so now we are in yearly, so the monthly is faded out, and if we toggle to monthly, the yearly will be faded out. So we want to still update this as well. So where was that done? So I think it's here. So for this selected plan, I will cut this out. I will say if the option is equals to monthly, can spell monthly again, then we want to append, so this should be $, and we'll add another $sign again, so $2, and this will be plan dot monthly price slash mo. And we also want to check if the option is equals to yearly. So if the option is yearly, so yearly, then we also want to do the same thing we did here. So I'll copy this and paste it right here, but this should be y arrow, and this should be yearly price, else this will be an empty string. And for this try, I only want it to show when we are on the yearly price, so we can just do that easily by saying if the option is equals to yearly, then you can just do it like so. So you see how easy it is of just adding this set option right here and just updating it and changing the value based on what is here. So we are currently in the monthly, so we have all this, and we can select this one. So if we go to the yearly now, you can see we have the yearly values. So let me refresh this. So get an error. Next step, we're going to get an error. So if we select the yearly and we try to click on next step, it's not going to work. And that's when this is coming from. Where is it? This object stuff. So let me try to take it away and see if it's going to work, because when I tried it initially, it didn't work at all. So let's see. Okay, I've selected something. I don't supposed to select anything. So next step. Okay, so if I click on this and go to the next step, it also didn't work. Okay, cool. So I don't know why it's working now. So but I'll just put this back for to know that we are setting everything the way we want it. All right, cool. So that is that for the step 2. And now the state is being updated right here. So if we go back to the select plan, the initial state that we've selected will be what's stored, so that we can accumulate it and get a total when we get to the next or to the final step. So the third step is the add-on, and we have to go to the form context. I think that is the last thing we need to set. Yeah, so we can add a validation for it and say validate add on. It should be a function as well. I would say we just basically destructure the values. So say add-ons, and destructure the checked items. So this one will be fairly easy because we're working with an array. So we just want to say if the checked items dot length, if is equals to 0, so if it's an empty array, we just want to set the error message to pick an add-on and return false. And here we can just set the error add-on to be an empty string and return true. And now we just have to come right here and say error add-on and validate add-on. So we can now come to the form, or to the footer rather, and pass in the validate add-on. Then we can pass it right here, say validate add-on. That's it for that. So we can now go to the add-on component and start bringing all the states that we'll need. So I will just go to one of all these components because I'm very lazy to type at this point, and copy the use form context and paste it. I will just make changes to this. So this will be error message add-on. I will import this, and for this we will say error message add-on. So let's see. Okay, so the error is coming in. Cool. So we'll do the same thing we did for the select plan. So I will just copy this and I will paste this here and set this to change the state to checked items and select set checked items, and this will just return the page data dot add-ons dot checked items, and we'll do the same thing here as well. Say add-ons dot checked items. So instead of us returning on the file, we just return an empty array because we are working with an array and not an object. So the major thing right here that we want to do, okay, there's an error, something is not right. Let's see. Okay, use state is not defined, so let's import that. Okay, so let's try it again. So what we want to do in this component is to keep track of when we select an add-on, and we can unselect, or yeah, I think that is the word, we can unselect or uncheck an add-on, and we can also like add new add-ons to the array. So it's just still adding like a function to just handle when we check on each of these add-ons right here. So how do we do that? We'll create a function called handle check. What should we call this? Handle check. Let's call this check pause change, because we just want to be able to change the add-on. And this will accept a parameter of an add-on because we want to change the add-on that we are currently selecting or checking. And we'll set the set checked items, and we'll grab the previous checked items. So I guess you might be used to this because we are just like we'll be creating a shallow copy later, but the first thing we want to do is to check if an add-on has been already checked. So we can do that by saying is already checked. So we can say if an add-on matches what we've selected. So we say item and say item. Let's use the title. I think that will make more sense. So if it's equals to what is on the add-on, and we say if is already there, so if it's already checked, then we want to remove it. So what I'll do is to create like another state, but this will be less so that we can be able to modify it. So we'll call this new checked items. So we'll define it like so, and we'll say the new checked items now will be equals to the previous one. I want to just filter out the item dot title that is not equals to the add-on dot title. So basically what this code is doing is that once we select something, we can easily remove it from our array. Then this is if it's already checked. So if it's not checked, we just want to update it and say new checked items, and we'll spread over the previous checked items, and we just pass in the add-on. So the add-on is the entire stuff that involves the title, the subtitle, and the price. But we are checking with the title, so this should be title. Hope I'm not spelling anything wrong. And lastly, we just want to return the new checked. What did I import? Okay, new checked items. Before we do, I just realized that we've been doing this outside the function block. So all this should be done inside the set checked items function, not outside it. Sorry about that. So I think we should start with just this input right here. So we can say if it is checked, or when we check on it, what we want to do is to see if there's a checked items, and if the checked items dot sum, and we use the title again and say item dot title is equals to the add-on dot title. So I don't know if you know what the sum method does, but what the sum method does is that it basically goes through the elements in an array and picks the first element that matches the condition. So I guess instead of doing this, we should just still return a false value if that is not there. So I guess I will have to wrap this. So I'll say checked items and checked items dot sum again, then say item dot title add on dot title. Then right here we can just return a false value if there's no checked items. Then when we change it on change, we can just pass in this add-on right here. So we can say handle checkbox change and just passing whatever add-on that we checked right here. I think also we need to add an active state. Yeah, so we can do this right here by let me change this to curly bracket and add the backticks to this. Do the same here. So we can say if the checked items for some reason, okay, this should be like so. So if the checked items dot sum, I will check if an item dot title matches anyone on the add-on, then we just display something. So I guess we didn't show that. So if it matches it, then we want to bring in an active state, else should be an else here. So else, make this empty. So you can see that we can now select multiple ones, and if nothing is selected, we can't go to the next step. So if we select one, we can now go to the next step, and for some reason this is still not working. So let's see why is that. And I know it's okay. I just noticed that we also need to update the set page data to whatever that we checked. So before we come to this return statement, I just set the page data right here and spread over the previous data and spread over it right here, and just pass the add-ons and checked items, passing the newly checked items. I don't think this is what is causing the error, but let's see. It was still not working. Cannot update a component from provider while arranging different component add-ons to locate the bad sales state. Code inside and just described in. Okay, so let's see what the issue is. Let's go through the code. Okay, we'll pass in the data, and let's also see something. Okay, this option as well, we still need to update it. I didn't think about that, because the option will be coming from this previous value. So we still have to go to the form and pass in the option right here. So accept it right here. We're going to fix that error in a bit, but let's just fix all these little issues that we are having. So come down to the price here, this part. Let's just cut everything out. And we just add the dollar sign. So plus dollar. And if the option is equals to monthly, then we want to show the add-on dot monthly price. Else if option is equals to yearly, then we want to show the add-on dot yearly price. Else we return an empty string, and that is for the price right here. So we also want to show the year and the month. So to do that, we can just come here and say slash and kind of repeat what we have here, but this time just return the string and say this should be mo and this should be yr, so that you can be able to show right here. Okay, so let's go through all these again and see what we missed. So if I go back to the top, we are bringing all this data from form context, created the checked items. So page data and page data dot add-ons are checked. So let's just be explicit and say this should be add-ons. All right, so page data dot add-ons and the checked items. Now we'll return this. Else we return an empty array. Then for the handle checkbox, check the items and grab the previous value and see if it's already there. Create a new variable to store the newly checked items and say if it's there, we want to filter it out and we want to update the array for the new checked items, and we're still updating the set page data. Then we're returning checked items. Okay, this is fine. Then I think the issue is coming from this checked side. So if it's checked, we are seeing if there's some items that will be checked, and we are using the sum to still check using the title, and here we're passing the add-on. So this should work. I still don't know why. Okay, now it's working. So I'm guessing it's this option that I forgot to use right here. But anyways, it works, and we also need to update this finishing up component with the data we just passed. So we used $1 here and we used $12 here, so we should get those values right here. So go back to the finishing up component. For this, we just need to get the page data, because like I said, if I go to the form context, the page data now has all the values that we've passed to it or that we've selected at some point. So we can destructure the page data from the use form context. And what we'll do is, first of all, this right here should take us to this second page 2, to select the plan, because there's an arcade here. So I'm guessing if I click on this, it should take us there. So how do we do that? So we can create a function, let's say go to step 2, and we'll say if the page is equals to 3. So we're going to step 2, and remember the page is starting from what? 0. So it makes sense. So if the page is equals to 3, which kind of mimics 2 because we're taking 1 from this, then from the progress bar, then we want to set the page and get the current page, and subtract 2 from it. So now we can come right here and say on click, and we can just go to step 2. So if we click on it now, it should take us to the step 2. So that's fine. So we'll update all these values in a bit, but we want to extract all the add-ons, because all the add-ons is what you are seeing right here. So to do that, we'll just create a variable and call this selected add-on titles, and we'll say add-ons dot map, and each of the item will just return only one thing. We just need only the title. So as you can see, this is what we need, just the title. The price will be dynamic. So the next we want to do is to get the price of the plan and price of the add-ons. So we'll store them inside another variable. So we'll say plan price, and we'll save the page data dot select plan dot option. So if it's equals to monthly, so I don't know what we selected, but it's already been stored right there. So if it's monthly, then we want the page data dot select plan dot selected plan dot monthly price. So whatever that monthly price is, we want to show that. Else we just want to do the same thing again, but this time we'll work with yearly. So this should be yearly, and this should be yearly price. Okay, so what are we missing? Then should be an empty stuff right here, an empty string. So let's save this again. Okay, so what this means is that we are checking if the user selected a monthly or yearly pricing, and we get the price from this selected plan right here. So the next thing we want to do is to like map over the selected add-ons, and we want to either retrieve the monthly or yearly price for each of the selected add-on from the user. So to do that, we'll do something similar to this again, but this time we just store this in a variable called add-on price, and we'll say page data dot add-ons dot checked items dot map. I'll map over all the items, each item rather. I'll set the option and say if the option is monthly, the option that was selected by the user is monthly, then we want to get the monthly price. I will say else if the option is yearly, then we also want to get the yearly price, else return an empty string. Alright, so ignore this that we have right now. I think we've not imported some stuff, that is why that error is showing up. So let's save and see. Okay, it's coming through. So if we click on the next step, is throwing an error. Why is that? Option is not defined. Option is not defined. Okay, so option is not defined, which means we also need to pass in the option right here as well. So we'll say option and we'll accept it right here. So option. So this is the benefit of using TypeScript. I would have known beforehand that I needed an option. So I think the error is fixed now. Okay. All right, so we've done this. We've been able to keep track of the selected titles, which are all these ones, the titles that were selected, the planned price, and the add-on price. So the planned price is this one right here. I'll keep track of this. So we want to now get the total of everything. So to do that, we can just come here. We're going to use all this in a bit. I just want to like create all the functions, or rather still write the logic for them before just plugging them into their right places. So we can say total add-on price. So we just want to get all the price of this add-on, and then we add it to this one right here to give us the total. So say total add-on price, and we can just get that from the add-on price that we did right here, and we use the reduce method and set it to the accumulator. We're not setting it, we're just passing the accumulator and the current value. And now we just say accumulator plus current value. Just a quick little crash course on the reduce method. The reduce method is just used to reduce an array to a single value. So remember, the add-on is an array. So I don't know why this is breaking every time. So what are we not doing currently now? So let's see. So accumulator is not defined. I guess it's the way I'm using it right here. So okay, this should be accumulator. Accumulator. All right, so shouldn't get. Keep forgetting to use this fake filler today. I don't know why. Okay. So now we just got the total of the add-on price, and to explain more of the reduce method, I was saying that it used to reduce an array to a single value, and our add-on price is an array. And you can see it has two parameters, an accumulator and the current value. So the accumulator basically stores the accumulated result as we iterate through the array. So if the array is starting from like 0, or let's say 10, 20, and 30, so the accumulator starts from this and move to the next one. And the current value basically represents the current element in the iteration, which is this one right here. And it does have an initial value as well, which starts from 0. So if you don't add it right here, it gets added automatically. So if we're not working with this, we're working with this an array, is going to be 0 plus 10, which will give us 10. Then the next iteration will be 10 plus this next value, which will give us what? 30. The next iteration will be 30 plus this 30 right here, which will give us 60. So that's how it works. So now that we have that, we can now get the total price by just saying total price and set this to plan price plus the add-on price. So to use it, we can just go to the plan price right here, and we'll say page data dot select plan dot option if is equals to monthly. Then we want to do some stuff, so we'll pass in the $sign 2 times and say page data dot select plan, dot selected plan dot monthly price, and we say passing the month right here. So if the total was monthly, it's going to have this right here, including the plan that was selected. Else, we'll just do the same thing again. So copy this and paste this right here. And let's see, I'm guessing this will have to stop here, break it here, and we'll add another one. Yeah, so we'll say else this should be an empty string. And we also need to end the template tutorial here. All right, so if we check now, you can see this is 12 monthly. So if we use yearly and go to the next step, the yearly is not showing because we need to change this to yearly. And yearly, so if we check now, you can see $12 per year because it's what is okay. This should be 120, not 12. So this should be yearly price. And let's try that again. Okay, cool. Then for the add-ons themselves, what we just do is to map over the selected add-ons titles, and we'll check if the title includes what is being added in this finishing up right here. So I'm just checking if it includes it. So if it includes it, then we want to do a couple of things. So cut this one and put it inside like so. And for this right here, I think it's basically similar to this, but we'll just copy this and make few tweaks. I will paste this here, and this will be the option, and instead of doing all this, we'll just set this to item monthly, and this will be option. If the option is equal to yearly, then we'll set it like so, say item.year. So those ones we selected are being passed right here. All right, cool. Then we also want to display the total price of this per year. And before we do that, we also want to make this either to show either for year or for month. So we can say if the option is equals to monthly, then we can set the total to per month. Else, if the option, you might have already guessed, just copy this again and paste this. So if it's yearly, it should be per year, and we just want to return an empty string. So this is per year, does it change? Then for the total itself, we'll do the same thing right here like so, but this time we'll make a very few adjustments, because for this we'll use the temporary literal, but we'll add it outside like so. Then we'll pass in $2, and this should be total price for per month. and there should be a plus right here because there was right here. I'll copy this one, paste it here. I just need just this, and this should be here. Okay, guess we are having double numbers. Don't know, we're having 12. Why is that? Okay, so let's go back and let's go from the top again. So we didn't use this right here, so this should be total add-on price, not that add-on price. Okay, so it's working now. 2010. But I think there's a little issue. 2010. Okay, so if we select only 10. All right, so it's working. So it's working with 120 plus 10, but we don't want to show this right here. Okay, so we'll fix that in a minute. But let's see, if we go to the next step, we want to now submit the form. So to show the thank you page, we can go back to the form context and we'll create a state. Let me call this form submitted and set form submitted. So this will be use state. I'll set it to false by default. So we need to still pass it right here. So let's just say form submitted and set form submitted, like so. So first of all, go to our footer and we want to say we're passing the set form submitted, and right here we just set it to true. So if it's last page, we set the form submitted to true. So it gives us like an easy way to submit the form. Then we'll go to the form component and we'll just destructure the form submitted from the context. Was it use context? We called it. Okay, use form context. So now before this, we just say if the form is submitted, if it's true, that means if we're on the last page, we just return the thank you component. Then we can just add the else if from here. So like so. So let's just try this out. Okay, cool. All right, so that's working. But if we refresh now, you can see all the data gets removed. So we just need to store them in local storage so that we don't lose track of what we have. So if we try it again and see a fake filler, go to the next step and maybe we refresh and we're not done with the form, it's bringing us back. So to do that, we'll go to our form contest, and what we'll do is I'll just have to change this to, I think this will be easier. So this will just be the initial data. So say initial data, and this should not be inside an array. So get rid of this. We'll use the set page data in a bit, and we don't need this use state as well. So get the stuff from the array. So we can say JSON dot pass, and what we want to pass, we'll say local storage dot get, and we'll get a value. So what we'll be getting is the actual key, and let's just call this form data, just dash m. I don't know if I have something like this already, so just to be on the safer side, then wrap this and put a pipe symbol here. Also get rid of this parentheses right here. So what we have to do now is to now create the page data and set page data and say use state and set it to the initial data. All right, so now we are getting the form data, but we've not set it. So in order for us to set it, we need to do it inside a use effect. So when the page reloads, we want to keep track of what we are currently doing. So pass in an arrow function right here, and we just only run once, and we just say local storage dot set item, and make sure the name is the same with the name you gave it right here. So form data dash m, and we'll make sure we stringify this to object. So we'll say stringify the page data, and I guess this should run whenever the page data changes, not when the page loads once, because if it loads once, it's not going to like save that state. So we'll do it whenever the page data changes, so that we can be able to save that state. And we need to import this as well. I think that's why I was throwing that error. So let's refresh. Did we import this? Yeah. So where is that error coming from? Let's check. Cannot access page data before initialization. Okay, so I guess this we have to come like so. All right, so if we have data now, we'll go back and refresh, we should see those data right here. So finally, what we want to do is to fix this from not moving when we are not done with a particular step. So if I click on this now, and you can see that on the next step we're having an error, but if I go to this third step, it jumps right there, which doesn't actually make sense. So we need these two to work hand in hand. So in order to do that, we'll go to the progress bar, and inside this handle step, we can just add some validation and say if we are going backwards, we can allow without validation. So we can go back without validating. So we can say if the index is less than the page, we can copy this sets page data, and can also return this. Then for us to get that validation or stop if any of the validation fails, we also need to bring in all the validation from the form context. So I think everything is being added here. So I'll copy this, I'll paste it right here, I'll get rid of this one and import this, and also copy this as well, paste it here. So okay, so what I will do is I'm going to use the traditional way, and we just use a for loop. So we say, I guess I don't know how to write this anymore. So we say for and say let I is equals to 0, and if I is less than or equals to whatever the index is, we just want to increment I. So we say I plus plus. And now we'll just pass in the validate function like we did in the footer, and set the validation functions. So remember, initially in the footer we use page. So what we use here is the I that we got from here. And we'll say that we want to make sure there's actually something to validate, and we just negate the validation function. Validation, can't type again. and just call it like so and stop it from submitting. So now if I refresh this, I can easily go to the next step. Okay, I can't go to the next step for some weird reasons. Or is it because of, did we negate it in this one? Okay, no, we didn't. So get rid of that. So let's try it again. It didn't work initially. So if we go to step 2, okay, it's working now. So we go to step 3, step 4. All right. So if we don't have any data right here and we try to submit, you get an error. So we can't go to the next step. But if we have an actual data, we can go to the next step. Okay. It's working fine as we want. All right. So the last thing we want to do before wrapping up the video, because it's getting extremely long, is to show just the one that is being selected. So 2 is selected right here, which is giving us a total of 12. But we're still having this last one. So what I'm thinking is we don't need this anymore. I guess we don't need this. So we can just get rid of this, and here we can say page data dot add-ons dot checked items. So we only want to show the items that are checked. So we don't need this anymore, and we still don't need this. So let's see if it will work. Fingers crossed. Yeah, so I guess it worked. So if we select 3 now, we should see 3 of them, and if we select 2, we should see 2. And you must select 1 because you can't go to the next step. Alright guys, so that's the end of the video. Hope you found it helpful. Again, I will leave a link to the GitHub repo in the description, and if you found this video helpful, you might as well enjoy this next video.